Unless one is wealthy, there is no use in being a charming fellow. Poor Huey. Intellectually, we must admit, he was not of much importance. He never said a brilliant or even an ill natured thing in his life. But then, he was wonderfully good looking. He was as popular with men as he was with women.
He's a great man, so kind and humble.
Such a charismatic personality. He speaks with such eloquence.
He had every accomplishment except that of making money. His father had bequeathed him his cavalry sword and a history of the Ten Peninsular War in 15 volumes. He lived on 200 a year that an old aunt allowed him. He had tried everything. He had gone on the stock exchange for 6 months, but what was a butterfly gonna do among bulls and bears? He had been a tea merchant for a little longer, then he had tried selling dry sherry, that did not answer. Ultimately, he became nothing, a delightful, ineffectual young man with a perfect profile and no profession. To make matters worse, he was in love. The girl he loved was Laura Merton, the daughter of a retired colonel. They were the handsomest couple in London and had not a penny piece between them. The colonel was very fond of Huey, but would not hear of any engagement.
My dear Yuki, come back to me where you found yourself a profession in which you can sustain yourself.
One morning, as he was on his way to Holland Park, he dropped in to see a great friend of his, Alan Trevor. Trevor was a painter, also an artist. Personally, he was a strange rough fellow, with a freckled face and a red ragged beard. However, when he took up the brush, he was a real master. When Huey came in, he found Trevor putting the finishing touches to a wonderful life-size picture of a beggar man. The beggar himself was standing on a raised platform in a corner of the studio. He was a wizened old man with a face like wrinkled parchment and a most piteous expression. Over his shoulders was flung a coarse brown cloak, all tears and tatters. His thick boots were patched and hobbled, and with 45 one hand he leant on a rough stick, while the other he held out his battered hat for alms.
What an amazing model.
An amazing model? I should think so.
Poor old chap. How miserable he looks. But I suppose to you painters, his face, his fortune.
Certainly, you don't want a beggar to look happy, do you?
How much does a model get for sitting?
A shilling an hour.
And how much do you get for your picture, Alan?
Oh, for this, I get £2,000.
Well, I think the model should have a percentage. They work quite hard as you do.
Nonsense! Nonsense! Why look at the trouble of laying on paint alone and standing all day long at one's ease? It's all very well, Huey, for you to talk, but I assure you that there are moments when art almost attains to the dignity of manual labor. But you must not chatter. I am very busy. Smoke a cigarette and keep quiet.
Don't run away, Huey. I will be back in a moment.
The old beggar man took advantage of Trevor's absence to rest for a moment. He looked so forlorn and wretched that Huey could not help pitying him. felt in his pocket to see what money he had was a sovereign and some coppers. He walked 75 across the studio and slipped the sovereign into the beggar's hand.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Then Trevor arrived and Huey took his leave. That night, he strolled into the Palette Club at about 11 o'clock and found Trevor sitting by himself in the smoking room, drinking Hawk and seltzer.
Well, Alan, did you get the picture finished? Alright?
Finished and framed, my boy. And by the way, you have made 85 a conquest. That old model you saw is quite devoted to you. I had to tell him all about you. What you are, where you live, what your income is, and what prospects you have.
My dear Alan, I shall probably find him waiting for me when I go home. Poor old wretch. I wish I could do something for him. I think it is dreadful that anyone should be so miserable. I have got heaps of 90 old clothes at home. Do you think he would care any of them?
But he looks splendid in them. I wouldn't paint him in a frock coat for anything. What you call rags, I call romance. What seems poverty to you is picturesqueness to me. However, I'll tell him of your offer.
Alan, you painters are heartless a lot.
An artist's heart is his head. And besides, our business is to realize the world as we see it, not to reform it as we know it. And now tell me how Laura is. The old model was quite interested in her.
You don't mean to say you talked to him about her?
Certainly I did. He knows all about the relentless Colonel, the lovely Laura, and the 10,000 pounds.
You told that old beggars all my private affairs?
My dear boy, that old beggar as you call him is one of the 105 richest men in Europe. He could buy all London tomorrow without overdrawing his account. He has a house in every capital, dines off gold plate, and can prevent Russia going to war when he chooses.
What on earth do you mean?
What I say, the old man you saw today in the studio was Baron Horsberg. He is a great friend of mine, buys all my pictures and that sort of thing, and gave me a commission a month ago to paint him as a beggar. And I must say, he made a magnificent figure in his rags, or perhaps I should say, in my rags. They are an old suit I got in Spain.
Baron Horsberg? Good heavens, I gave him a sovereign.
Give him a sovereign? My dear boy, you will never see it again.
I think you might have told me, not have let me make such a fool of myself.
Well, to begin with, Huey, it never entered my mind that you went about distributing arms in that reckless way. I can understand you're kissing the pretty model, but you're giving a sovereign to an ugly one? By Jove, no. Besides, the fact is that I really was not at home today to anyone, and when you came in, I didn't know whether Horsberg would like his name mentioned. You know, he was not in full dress.
What a duffer. He must think me.
Not at all. He was in the highest spirits after you left, kept chuckling to himself and rubbing his old wrinkled hands together. I couldn't make out why he was so interested to know all about you, but I see it all now. He will invest your sovereign for you, Huey, pay you the interest every 6 months, and have a capital story to tell after dinner.
I'm unlucky, devil. The best thing I can do is go to bed. And my dear Ellen, you must not tell anyone. I should not dare to show my face in the raw.
Nonsense. It reflects the highest credit on your philanthropic spirit, Huey. And don't run away. Have another cigarette, and you can talk about Laura as much as you like.
The next morning, as he was at the breakfast, the servant brought him up a card on which it was written,
I suppose he has come for an apology.
Monsieur Gustave Nadine de la Parte, Le Baron Horsberg. He told the server to show the visitor up. An old gentleman came into the room and said in a slight French accent,
Have I honor of addressing Monsieur Erskine? I have come from Baron Horsberg.
I beg, sir, that you will offer him my sincerest apologies.
The Baron has commissioned me to bring you this letter.
When they were married, Alan Trevor was the best man, and the Baron made a speech at the wedding breakfast.
Millionaire models are rare enough, but by Jove, model millionaires are rarer still.